ladies and gentlemen, all. I speak today not just as the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, but I also speak as the incoming chair of CARICOM, Caribbean Community, which is about 15 independent countries, to join you in this historic moment, the investiture of Dr. George ELOMBI as President of the African Export-Import Bank. The investiture of Dr. George ELOMBI as President and Chairman of the Board of the African Export-Import Bank must be marked by an occasion like this that is significant. So therefore, on the behalf of the government, congratulations to you, Dr. ELOMBI, but also on the behalf of the Caribbean community. Your elevation to this high office is a recognition of your decades of service, dedication, and vision. You have been part of Afrexim Bank's remarkable journey for nearly 3 decades or more, helping to shape it into one of the most dynamic financial institutions Africa and the Caribbean are charting a new course. Under your guidance, we are confident that Afrexim Bank will continue to expand its influence and deepen its partnerships across the Atlantic. For us, and her diaspora in tangible, transformative ways through initiatives like the Africa-Caribbean Trade and Investment Forum. We are forging a new era of cooperation that transcends history and geography. We look forward to working with you to strengthen trade and investment, build resilience in smaller states, and empower our entrepreneurs and youth. Together, we can advance a model of development rooted in inclusivity, sustainability, and shared destiny. Dr. ELOMBI, as you take the helm, you carry not only the confidence of Africa, but also the admiration and support of the Caribbean and the Caribbean community. I therefore will give one anecdote in the Caribbean and how a bank played a fundamental role in our development when everyone else thought it was impossible. The Caribbean, like Africa, most of us were colonies of European powers. We were treated just like Africa was treated, robbed of resources, and then be told that we were not worthy of development. In St. Kitts and Nevis, the smallest country in CARICOM, our country was a country that was based on and governments. Our people were extremely poor, disadvantaged, and lived in abject poverty. Our country had the worst poverty in the Caribbean region as a result of this exploitation. However, we moved from being just a colony to a statehood, a stage just before independence. However, the industries were still controlled by external powers. A graduate of the London School of Economics. And instead of staying in London, he decided to return home to St. Kitts and Nevis. to set up a banking institution. All of the big business were the foreign banks. We had from Britain, we had from the United States of America and other places from the north. And they did not cater for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. So our people used to save their monies. In Africa, no access to banking. Something he was told was impossible. He was in the smallest country in the region, and the people he catered for had no real resources. So he said that I will call this bank the penny bank. Because the big banks don't want to accept your penny, we will accept your pennies. And so my great-great-grandmother's mother, my great-great-grandfathers, they then had a bank where they could bank. But that's not the end of the story. Possible. But to end the story is to say, indigenous bank being the smallest country as a result of that. It became a multi-billion-dollar bank. And they asked the question, how can such a It was challenging to get loans for financing, to finance industry and development. They said that we did not have enough resources to pay back their loans, but we created our own national bank. And so we started to develop as a country. And so we developed to the point where now we are considered a high-income country, and today they are saying to us that your income is too high to get concessionary loans. So on one hand, we were too poor to get your financing because we could not pay for it. We find ways to develop ourselves, our resources. What's the moral of the story? That no one will come to save us. We have to save ourselves. And so I say to the new president, the new chairman, as you're coming, that you will hear many stories like these. That places in Africa that does not look perfect, it does not look right, but we have to be innovative and we have to make possible what's impossible. So, Mr. President, I know you're taking over from a man who has made a lot of seemingly impossible things possible. He has connected Africa and the Caribbean in a tangible. And so to President Orama, thank you for your service. And as you take up this new mantle, my only words to you are, it will require steel, innovation, and to keep the people always at the center of what you do. And remember always, you have the support, the leaders of the Caribbean and the Caribbean community. May your tenure be one of success. May your tenure help to advance not just the African continent, but people of African descent throughout this world. I wish you well. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Prime Minister, and thank you for embodying the spirit of global Africa. We are truly one. And to exemplify this, we've got a brief performance right now from our brother from Barbados, Adrian Green, who will give us a spoken word performance. He's a poet, performer, and spoken word artist. Adrian Green, please. Round of applause.
Masa el-Khia, brothers and sisters. It is not only because we are here in Egypt that I want to relate the progress of the Exprexim Bank to the process and the progress of historic African civilizations, to progressions occurring in steps like the engineering of the step pyramids of Zosa progressing into the Great Pyramids of Giza. African engineering has long endured and enabled structures, infrastructures, systems of sustainability and support. Similarly, but much faster, Afrexim ingenuity in financing paves the way to empowerment through infrastructure, hospitals, factories, power plants, schools, and ports. The courts of history show how ancient Ghana, Mali, Songhai were each part of the progression of African civilizations over time, an extended tradition of intra-African cultural economic activity along the trans-Saharan trade lines. A tradition we can track southward through Monomatapa and Great Zimbabwe, and today in hindsight and looking forward we can see that the deserts should never divide us, nor the oceans, nor the seas. That African civilization will be weak if wealthy, but not unified or too top-heavy. That intra-African trade is the destination and the way paved by global African unity. History still to be written must bear the testimony that Africa has set itself free through these 3 cycles of Afrexim Bank presidents and beyond, standing resolute with determination on their faces through new free trade zones and industrial spaces. Lineage of leaders, thinkers, doers, believers. Enduring the absurdities of colonially induced inter-African division. Is rising around a common center. It is not in are the ones designed by Africans for Africans, which fit better than the so-called international best practice. Jackets and ties which fit more like nooses, leashes, haute couture, colonial era designs. We have found and continue to find tailor-made bespoke solutions suited to creating mutually beneficial ties that bind. Can your mind conceive of the potential in a periodic table of nations, 55 atomistic countries with infinite diasporic energies merging into multi bonded by a common history? fatally fragmented predicament together. Independence is a journey through landmarks of political struggle. May Afrexim Bank continue to make the way for those who have the talent and skills and wills. From Barbados to Brazil, from Cairo to the Cape, standing unafraid, dedicating and dedicated to making Made in Africa the marker of excellence. Never let us forget that African self-confidence and an African self-concept are integral assets in this delicate dance of developmental finance. I ask, what can stop and contain a continent committed and confident in developing the foundation that works, the relational networks that work to facilitate the flow, the emergence, the birth of this era of African investment and trade across the earth? Africa always, Africa forget forever, African to African first, making blessings out of borders that were intended to be a curse, across barriers and obstacles, country by country, city to city, from capital to capital, with banking dams that direct the flow of capital like an economic river providing power, economic electricity, a current that flows in the current day towards the idea of a common African currency. Let the world come and see. A credit operation as vast as the oceans and the seas, of ports flow back and forth on the banks of which global African institutions and entities grow and flourish, flower and bloom. Boom. African industry has entered the room. Boom. Let the world observe Africa rising as it mushrooms, like a pharaoh resurrected, rising from the tomb, in grace and poise and love. Because Africa, we love you. Africa, we love you. Africa, we love you. 'Cause now we understand how they've pushed and shoved you into the dimly lit corners of their history books. But we know the truth 'cause we searched and looked to lift our minds off of Europe's hook. And some still don't understand how much strength and willpower it took to get from under their spells and propaganda. And now them a wonder how we so proud and we daishikis and we booba. We let them know we were orphaned but we found our mother. We've been reunited with our lost sisters and brothers. Africa stretches forth her hands to her prodigal sons and daughters, scattered across the waters in this great disaster that was authored. But I won't say the word, 'cause they tried to kill every last semblance of African spirit and skill. But destiny must unfold, prophecy must fulfill. Emancipation is a mountain, it's a real steep hill. And to get to the top for we is such a thrill. That's why from Cape Town to Cairo, Barbados to Brazil, no matter where we were taken, we are African still, and we will heal those emotional scars, and we will reclaim everything that's ours, and we will redeem our ancestors, and we will retake our place amongst the stars. Africa, we love you. Better days must come, we see the sun shining from above you. The storm clouds are moving from above you. And glorious things again will be spoken of you. Ooh. Like cradle of humanity, birthplace of civilization, bringer of some sanity to these crazy modern nations. Sankofa is the only way out of this present situation. Looking backward to go forward to our future destination. Our relation to our history must be more than information. Emancipation, it's a feeling, it's an overwhelming emotion. Inspiring devotion and a commitment to undo the programming that they put us through. Africa is ancient, but we must experience it new. Africans, be persistent, and to thine own culture be true. Let our common experience keep us together like glue with this ancient social science that they call Ubuntu. Excuse me if I get a little hype, but I'm a part of a place that they try to wipe out of all historical sight. And now my stories come to light, and all those wrongs I come to right, with songs of redemption and words to fight the oppression that has we new. The prophet has already said to you, because we're moving right out of Babylon, and we're moving to our Father's land. Wherever you come from on the continent, the connections are evident. The retentions are a testament to ties that couldn't be broken nor bent. And even if you've come from far, we have to remember who we are. The scattered fragments of our souls let us recollect. And never again should we forget that we are Canaan. We are and Hausa and Igbo and Mandingo. We are Ashanti, Zulu, Madabele, Maasai and Bantu. And I've waited for so long to say it in an African tongue, so people indulge me. I want to say it in Kiswahili. Nakupenda Africa, Africa I love ya.
Poet, performer and spoken word artist, our brother from Barbados, Adrian Green. So now we move to what you are here to witness today, which is the investiture and the taking of oath. The rules provide that the chairperson of the AGM. I invite the chair.
Thank you very much, and I'm delighted, particularly delighted, and historic investiture. Thank you. Your Excellencies, heads of state and representatives of heads of state here present, including our brother from St. Kitts and St. Nevis, the Prime Minister, Hassan Abdallah, Governor, Central Bank of Egypt and Deputy Prime Minister, the Deputy Chairperson, OAU, distinguished shareholders of Afri-Exim Bank, of course, Professor and Mrs. Benedict Orama, the outgoing President and Chairperson of the Board of Directors of AfriBank, Dr. George ELOMBI and Mrs. ELOMBI, President-designate Afri-Exim Bank and current Executive Vice President for Governance, Corporate and Legal Services. May I recognize Mr. Christopher Edodu and Mr. Jean-Louis Ekra, the former Afri-Exim Bank presidents, members of the Board of Directors of Afri-Exim Bank and the group entities, the heads of international organizations and corporate leaders, Alhaji Aliko Dangote, contingent, and of course, may I please indulge me while I recognize the former Vice President, Federal Republic of Nigeria, Senate President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, Dr. Bukola Saraki. At this point, let me say all protocols duly observed, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen of the press. I would like to first of all pass on the warm felicitations and congratulations of His Excellency President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and indeed the good people of Nigeria, for this all-important investiture ceremony. 4 months ago, at the 32nd Afri-Exim Bank annual meetings, it was my distinct honor and privilege to serve as the chairperson, and I remain so at this historic moment, a pivotal occasion marking the unanimous appointment of Dr. George ELOMBI as the 4th President and Chairman of the Board of Directors of Afri-Exim Bank. And you know, this appointment is not merely a change in leadership. It is the dawn of a new era, a moment that reaffirms Afri-Exim Bank's central role in the shaping of Africa's financial sovereignty as Alhaji Aliko said, its manufacturing future. Today, in accordance with the bank's charter, we gather to celebrate the official assumption of office of a new president. As chair of the annual general meeting, I extend my warm even yesterday. Your presence does testify the enduring coalition that we have built, a coalition that's grounded in our shared vision of Africa's future development and its prosperity. Before we look ahead, as we surely will in a second, allow me to pause just for a moment to try to pay tribute, as we have been doing for months before now, and even as we did yesterday, to my friend, my brother, the remarkable Professor Benedict Orama. I must confess, it's a bit of a risky task, because how you encapsulate a decade and more of service in just a few sentences. But I will try, and I will just say that, look, over the past decade, under your visionary leadership, Afri-Exim Bank has not only financed trade across the continent, it has reshaped Africa's trade architecture and repositioned the continent in the global economic arena. from Benin to Togo, Chad to Côte d'Ivoire, and beyond. Your legacy, Professor, is indelibly written in our continent's development history. And we all know. We know the achievements, perhaps AFCA, Transit Credit Scheme, Intra-African Trade, the 800 million facility for special economic zones, and so on and so forth. These initiatives have Afri-Exim supported the continent to weather, we know, Ukraine conflict and even the current shift an unshakable belief in Africa's future. Africans in diaspora. Even as we celebrate, it is therefore not just ceremonial, it is a convergent, integrated and competitive Africa. And that I extend on behalf of the board, our shareholders and the people of Africa, our heartfelt congratulations to Dr. George ELOMBI. You are no stranger to Afri-Exim Bank. You now assume the mantle at a defining juncture, a time when Africa's destiny is being rewritten through resilience and innovation. Your appointment represents continuity, it represents renewal, a seamless transition from the solid foundation laid by your predecessor sitting right next to you here, and a bold leap towards the future we envisage. Indeed, Import Bank, Afri-Exim Bank, at the 32nd Annual General Meeting of Shareholders held on 28th June 2025, solemnly declare and undertake before the chairman of the general meeting and before the members of the board of directors that I will abide by the provisions of the agreement for the establishment of the African Export-Import Bank, its charter and rules and regulations, and that I will discharge my duties and functions as laid down therein with loyalty, discretion, and conscience, and I will regulate my conduct as president with the interest of the bank only in view.
I draw at the 32nd Annual in Abuja, solemnly declare and undertake before the chairman of the annual general meeting and before the members of the board of directors that I will abide by the provisions of the agreement for the establishment and that I will discharge my duties and functions as laid down therein with loyalty, with discretion and conscience, and I will regulate my conduct in view. So,
Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Now that the oath is done, may I also add with the interest of Africa in view. So help me, Africa.
So we need you to sign the formal document, and alongside the President-designate and now President, we are inviting Mr. Gerald Chihota on behalf of the Secretary of the Board, who will bear witness to the proceedings. This is the pen that you... Gerald, please. Gerald? First secretary. And then we'll have another round of photos with Gerald. And may I invite the board of directors of the Afro-Exim Bank to join on stage for the group photo, please. The board of directors may join us, please. Together the board, please, for the group photo. Get closer together. I want to check. Have a photo of all the board members, please. Thank you. So if you can... So we're going to do the group photo. If you can start looking at the cameramen and ladies. Thank you. If you can all start looking at the cameramen and ladies, please. You want to be in the... So now I'm going to invite the former presidents to join me on stage, please. Mr. Jean-Louis Écrin, Mr. Dodu, please, if you can join us on stage. All the presidents are coming. Dr. ELOMBI, you're next on stage. You can join us on stage, please. Presidents, if we can, thank you. Président. also invite our four speakers from today. And the Central Bank Governor of Egypt, please, if you can join us on stage for a final photo. And the Minister of Finance. Absolutely. Yes, and the Minister of Cameroon. So next, if I can ask this photo. Your Excellency, please join us on stage. If I can ask the SVP and the EVPs present to present them, to get ready and come on stage. In the Afrexim Bank room, the EVPs and SVP. So may we give another round of applause as we invite we are inviting the President and Chairman of the Board of Directors of the African Export-Import Bank, Dr. George ELOMBI to make his inaugural address.
Thank you very much, MC. And now that the pictures are over, maybe I should tell you in a few minutes. The chairman was very severe. He said he wouldn't give me as much time as you did yesterday. Let me in 20 minutes tell you what it is that we plan to do in the following 5 to 10 years. But before I do so, perhaps I should confirm that I have adopted in full the protocols which the chairman, Minister Idun, had over here. Thank you very much, Chairman. Seeing is believing. We told very many participants and delegates and inquirers that you will be here to apply the oath so that I could become the president, and I was very confident of it. But they chose to believe that you were in another part of the planet, maybe with your ancestors. But it seems to have been the choice of your ancestors that you come back here. So long live our chairman, long live Africa's development, long live our trade. And we were also yesterday, chairman, while you were traveling here, captivated by an extraordinary performance which you must have witnessed in Ghana and in Nigeria. They are dedicated to telling the truth. We owe them our thanks for taking us down memory lane and reminding us of the greatness of the African continent and its people. Musa Keita was celebrated as the wealthiest man in human history. He embodied a timeless truth that we possess human spirit and the resources to build a prosperous continent. So, first, number one, if there is any right that we as Africans cannot and we must not never claim, that right we should not claim is the right to remain poor, for we were never poor. That's why you're gathered here today to witness and endorse what the transfer of leadership, and beyond that, or defined by the historic wealth of Musa Keita, but by two things just as profound as Musa Keita's wealth and the faith that took Musa Keita traveling from Niani in Guinea to the Arabian desert. Orama's legacy is a different kind of wealth, a different form of African resilience. It is the wealth that inspires Africans to action, the spirit that ignites hope, and the bold, courageous leadership that demonstrates how our aspirations can be transformed into tangible achievements. Three other groups whose contribution I would like most directly. Okay, thanks very much. We had three other groups of people we haven't said much of in the last 2 days. First, the shareholders, most of you gathered in here, the owners of this great institution. You have made extraordinary sacrifices. These sacrifices are long, a little too long to enumerate. Your last major sacrifice, the one you did, putting aside for a moment your decision to appoint me as president, was the $2.4 billion capital injection you made 4 years ago. That represents more than 92% of the $2.6 billion you promised. That is a resounding success for two reasons. First, you when other priorities, important economic and social priorities, were calling for your attention. Second, you have completed your contributions over 1 year before the expiry date. There is no more powerful a message, there is no more powerful a way to convey your determination to see this institution survive. We must thank you, shareholders, the African taxpayer who established this institution. Another group is your staff, the people you trained, as the Minister of Finance of Cameroon said a minute ago, those you trained in your institutions of education, those institutions that produced the like of Professor Orama and Chandir and the others. In his farewell message to the staff, Professor Orama stated that a general is only as good as his officers and soldiers. That's the case for us. You gave us the best of your nationals. And although at the bank they recognize that it's a very special privilege to serve your cause, that they are amongst a very special few, a select few, sacrifice. Thank you very much, my good old friends. Questions? I'll still be there. Some time and for a long time. And I have served that institution too. At management level, we would like to thank you for the quality of the men and women you appoint to the board. I say this not just as one of the platitudes you would hear as you go from place to place. I could go a bit further. Mr. Dodo is still we have had the best set of directors that the African continent has ever given to any of its institutions. The guiding spirit of what you want this institution to be. We are fortunate to have had them. Their understanding of the challenges facing the continent is just as extraordinary as the creativity in trying to tell us what path to adopt. Unless they saw the urgency in the COVID interventions, I can assure you all the determination of Professor Orama, the nights of strategy we had in management would have gone to naught. They understood it, and when the staff papers were presented to them, it took only a few days, 3 days, a few hours for a few calls for them to become convinced that their continent was in need of a very drastic intervention. They're all seated over there, the ladies and gentlemen on my right-hand side. I'd like to thank you on behalf of the staff you meet on the corridors when you come for the board meetings. I'd like gentlemen, the bank has had a legacy. And we've spent these days talking about the much. At the board meeting on Thursday, President Orama outlined some of the achievements of the last 10 years only, of just the last 10 years. The total assets and guarantees grew more than eightfold. Chairman, you did mention that itself a few minutes ago. Would have in the continent as loan and advances, and there's perhaps none. Total revenues also rose sevenfold, 3.2 billion in 10 years. Net income amounted to 1 billion at the end of 2024, and a 700% increase from the level of 10 years ago. In total capital generation, and very strong support of shareholders has brought in additional equity. That saw your funds rise from 1 billion in September 2015 to 7.5 billion in April of this year. That leaves you with a callable capital reaching 4.5 billion from 450 million in 2015. The bank has created subsidiaries. The Fund for Export Development in Africa, which is located in Rwanda, Afrexim Shore, and others. Which is going out there, we suggest that we're wasting your We actually are creating institutions that are building onto the capital. Investment in export processing zones, refineries, and medical approach on how best to reach Africa's of the institution since creation. My first is to preserve those achievements. With a view to the future, this moment too is an occasion to reaffirm our unwavering commitment to carrying forward this legacy, to make it deeper, create more impact, strengthen the partnerships, continue the mission of building an Africa that first trades with itself and thrives on its own terms. The mandate of the bank, as set out in the Charter, is to promote and facilitate Africa's trade. The structure of that trade is skewed. It's extremely disfavorable to Africa. It has to change. It is also too dependent on export commodities. Our mission is therefore to transform the structure of that trade. So, prime mission, transform the structure of African trade. To change that structure, we must process. We must produce. Unless we produce, we will be unable to trade amongst ourselves. But your leaders have given to us as our prime mission in the coming years the need for Africans to trade amongst themselves. Trade in itself is not their objective. Trade is to enable us to develop. Trade also helps us to build ourselves as communities. So with that in mind, let me outline the areas we will prioritize over the next 5 to 10 years. We believe these sectors will have the most significant and sustained impact on our trade and our overall well-being. These would constitute the defining path of the next 5 to 10 years. First, we will promote and accelerate value addition and strategic minerals processing. We will work to stop the export of our raw potential. By transforming what we produce building regional value chains and fostering homegrown industries, we can create jobs, and we will create the jobs, retain the wealth, and drive growth across the continent. Drive industrialization and job creation. Exim Bank will therefore create a new high-impact financing window, specifically for projects that process raw minerals into semi-finished goods or finished goods. We've made some promises. Some of you here seated very directly. To the governor of Ogun State, we made a promise that his fabric processing zone we will take heads on, and the partnerships are there in place. Let's be clear about this. Exim Bank is no longer interested in financing the export of Africa's raw commodities. I know we have many partners in here, and I know you would be sending text messages, calling our colleagues in the regional offices for financing. Let's be clear. If you're calling them so that we go and mine our soils, send our young men deep into the mines so that we export the gold raw and export the manganese raw, the cotton raw, the cocoa raw, in the next 5 to 10 years, we are not interested in those. We intend to establish a strategic minerals development program that to process, to finance entire value chains, from extraction and refining to manufacturing finished components. Instead of exploiting those raw lithium from the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, for instance, we will finance factories to produce lithium-ion batteries locally. There is need to capture more value here at home and create high-skilled jobs for our people. Minister a few minutes ago for the first time. He is attending these events for the first time too. Honorable Minister, maybe I'll have to say to you again in French after this. Mais pas question de la bauxite exportée dans son état naturel. I take off your hat of a chairman, more crude and more forward-taking. This has numerous benefits. Mr. Gan Gupta of the Arise Group, with whom we have tried some of those, spent some time telling us that by processing the minerals, we also help to develop the infrastructure. We improve your forex earnings. Did make it clear to us that in most cases, less than 20% of the investment actually goes to the mineral extraction itself. If the investment is properly done, 80% ends up in the roads, the rail links, the port facilities, the power stations that you have to bid to supply the processing zones. On this, I'm going to call on my very good friends, our alliance, the African Finance Corporation. I hope Somalia is in here. We've had these exchanges before. We'll be relying on you, and we'll be relying on our friends at the Preferential Trade Bank, TDB in Nairobi. We'll be relying on you to ensure that this processing takes place. Next, our second priority is to deepen intra-African trade and regional integration. The success of our value addition agenda of the need to process will ultimately depend on our ability to secure markets for the goods we produce. In this regard, the heads of states have mandated us to ensure that the AfCFTA works. It represents a vital platform for advancing value addition and export manufacturing. We will intensify efforts to break down Ambassador Wamkele to break down barriers, strengthen cross-border infrastructure, and foster seamless movements of goods, services, people, especially people, and capital across the continent. We want to emphasize people. Seems, in our experience in Afreximbank, that the Africans we cannot get a visa, and we worked very hard in Afreximbank with those. But take the further step, open your borders. Open your borders to your own people. That border has been opened since colonial times. Since the British and the French came, that border has been open. In 1960, on independence, the states resolved that they would keep the borders open. Today, Nigeria is over 250 million, sometimes they say 230, sometimes 260. Those are just figures, it's neither here nor there. But it's a massive elephant. It sits next to Cameroon with merely 30 million, sometimes 32. The Nigerians have not invaded Cameroon in their numbers. They trade freely. The free borders mean that Cameroonian students move easily into Nigerian universities to study. Fishermen come from Cameroon to do their fishing and back. So long as they know they can come and go, they really have no difficulties trading freely. Everyone is free, including thieves. They too come in, steal, and go back. They'll never stay. So let them come through so that our people can move, and only that free flow of labor is going to help us achieve some of the infrastructure and some of the processing agenda. Catalytic role in implementing the AfCFTA. You must have us trade without the infrastructure. That's one of the areas we have been accused of mission creep. But it's very hard how a fragmented and highly dilapidated infrastructure network, from roads and railways to ports, power grids, remain a major bottleneck to intra-African trade and a significant driver of the high logistics cost on our continent. We think some emphasis should be placed on that. We already have an agenda with those countries which already produce excess power to construct the transmission lines and take to those with less. We will accelerate investments in critical trade-enabling infrastructure projects that directly connect African markets to one another. They will take the highway and rail lines, but also modernize seaports. But also, for some of you may not be aware of this, especially those in the financial services, just mere warehousing facilities and inland container depots, energy projects, and specialized logistics hubs. We are going to focus on that. For some of them, they would involve the construction of pipelines. We would focus on those. Priority would be given to infrastructure that links production centers with markets to unlock trade potential and lower the cost of doing business. Our interventions would be smart and innovative. They will be tailored to the realities of African trade, projects leveraging public and private sector partnerships, innovative financing structures, and regional coordination to ensure these investments have minimum impact. A key initiative under my leadership will be the creation of a shared integrated infrastructure ecosystem for trade, something aimed at leveraging existing trade-enabling infrastructure in a very cost-effective manner, so that the countries which do not have can rely on the infrastructure next door. Fourth, technologies. That's going to be an important area over the coming years. Innovation and technology are appointed extremely potent forces for change in Africa's economic landscape, and they offer a direct way to leapfrog persistent development challenges, dismantle barriers to trade, improve efficiency, and create new opportunities for growth. Together, they create an environment where African businesses can compete globally while they strengthen regional economic integration. We must therefore embrace new technology. We must embrace them with our arms open. We must invest in digital infrastructure, in platforms for e-commerce and payment platforms that advance analytics and artificial intelligence and machine learning to create a seamless digital ecosystem to unlock has already launched and commercialized some of this digital infrastructure and ecosystem. African Trade Gateway and the payment system. So this is not new in Afrexim. And it is to strengthen this, I will elevate artificial. We have to begin to think. Perhaps we should now begin to explore the creation of a Pan-African digital currency, which includes stable coins. I throw this at you. I know some of the governors I beat each year about, but we're just doing that just as yet. Dear governors, we will come to you with a working paper. Fifth, we think there is now need to mobilize global African capital in the most aggressive way through a bold and decisive the people of African descent around the world. These courses of action fulfill the centuries-old aspirations, the aspirations of Pan-Africanists, such as Marcus Garvey and Kwame Nkrumah, W.E. William Du Bois, George Padmore, Edward Blyden, and many others who have long advocated for the reunification of people of the Honorable Terence Drew, the sitting claim from your end is an undeniable testimony very inclined on our initial findings. They're inclined to create a platform for building consensus, for building common positions to tackle our shared challenges and accelerate the integration. The Commission will be under the distinguished chairmanship of His Excellency Baba Obasanjo and Honorable P.J. Patterson, former Prime Minister of Jamaica, spirit bearers of the Africa that Marcus Garvey and Dubois prayed for, and Kwame Nkrumah, the Africa that President Nasser and Julius Nyerere fought for. We therefore extend our sincere thanks to the leaders of CARICOM. Honorable Dio, as you go back, we've had the opportunity to be there. Tell them that the continent is integrating. I am most particularly interested in that integration. In my recent visit to Barbados, Prime Minister asked Sister Maya Motley, the very fiery Maya Motley, the defender which she asked me to disclose if I wish to. ELOMBI. Honorable Drew, the more reason why I have to go to the Caribbean more often. There is need for me to find out where else my I know that her grandmother was a very adventurous woman, traveled quite widely. But I'm not sure in all the studies, in all the findings I did in the family, no mention was made of another ELOMBI so far off in the Bahamas. So I'll be visiting more often, Honorable Jill, because perhaps the secret is there in the Bahamas. And should the secret be there, that's the more reason why we should integrate a little more. It is no coincidence that the Commission's composition, the Global African Commission, to it we've given great prominence to Africans in the Caribbean, underscoring our belief in the movement towards one global Africa. And by global Africa, we mean not only those on the continent, but also our brothers and sisters of African heritage in Latin America, in as close as Brazil, and as far as Colombia, and in the United States and elsewhere in the globe. Global African resources. Remember, I was talking global African capital will therefore be made, and government sovereign funds, this world is invested elsewhere in the world. We will intensify efforts to connect this vast pool of capital from sovereign wealth funds, pension funds, diaspora investors, or private equity back to Africa's growth. Expressing Bank will create innovative financial instruments, trusted co-investment platforms, and a pipeline of bankable African projects to allow African capital to flow to African opportunities. This is not just about financing. It is about ownership. It is about redefining the narrative of African development. It's time for Africa's wealth, wherever it resides, to work for our own future. Sixth pillar, is the financial strength of your institution. At my appointment, our shareholders and President Urama set an ambitious goal to grow Afreximbank's balance sheet to $250 billion within 10 years. We thought that was quite a demanding task. So we went around consulting. And as we consulted further with a few African leaders, including His Excellency, the President of Egypt, who is a fundamentalist in his support to Afreximbank, and incidentally a major shareholder too, he set an even more ambitious target. He challenged us to aspire to reach $350 billion. That's extremely typical of him. This, therefore, is just not about figures and numbers. The message we took from debating the matter a little further with him, the message we took is that it was more a call for impact. And that the foundation is already there. It's been laid over 30 years. After 30 years, we ought to be creating greater impact than we have. It reflects a sense of urgency among our heads of states to build a financially strong and globally relevant African institution. It also demonstrates a deep trust, a certain confidence that they have in Afreximbank as a systemic institution for Africa's development. So they are committed to supporting it in all circumstances. And for this, we will not disappoint. With the same drive that has brought us this far, we will rise to meet the expectations of our shareholders and our continent's leadership. We recognize that only a strong and well-capitalized institution can make the scale of investments and interventions required to transform Africa's trade and the trade infrastructure and the development landscape. But what is it that gives us confidence that such growth, that level of growth is attainable within a relatively short time frame? The answer lies in our strategic focus. The focus on export processing and industrialization, the engines of wealth creation and value addition. We would rely on our own resources to do so. Honorable Drew, the paradox you described, by some coincidence, I think my colleagues and I who put this statement together also did think of a similar paradox along the same lines. You had no money, so you asked for money, you were told you were too poor to get the money. And when you had the money, you were told you were too rich to get some more. But we also did describe here that if we invest in export processing, we get more money. And as we get more money, we'll be able to invest more. And the additional investment would produce the capital that we need to get ourselves to the level we intend to. So sometimes paradoxes. When we add value, we create wealth. And when we create wealth, we expand our capacity to reinvest. A growing base of retained earnings from reinvestment will enable us to strengthen the balance sheet of your institution. It will enable us to disburse more funds for high-impact projects. which in turn generates wealth and further drive growth. So as we put the money in the export processing zones, we will ask the states for assistance, not their money or administrative assistance. They provide the land. As we do so, you will hear more criticisms in the press about mission creep. Swipe them on one side of your hands and put them aside. These are detractors. Probably don't understand what it would take to change the situation of jobs in your countries, to give your ministries of finance a wider tax base. Unless we do that processing, nothing would change. And to do that, you must have a strong financial institutions. Next, in our agenda, we intend to create very strong partnerships, or to develop the partnerships we have. Our partnerships with relevant development institutions remain central to Afreximbank's mission. We recognize that Africa's progress depends not only on the strength of individual institutions, but also on the power of collaboration amongst us. In this regard, which has been slow, will continue to be of enormous strategic value. We are particularly delighted, we're extremely delighted, by the appointment of the new president of the African Development Bank, a long-standing friend of Afreximbank, who has previously served as president of the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa and as a member understanding. Mr. Sidi Tar, his deep understanding of Africa's is also a very skillful manager of people. We believe that his combined strength, his belief in our development, and his ability to move people to achieve those is a very strong basis for that collaboration. We're also working to deepen the alliance of African multilateral financial institutions, and they draw together partners like the Trade and Development Bank, TDB, Africa Finance Corporation, Africa 50, the Reinsurance Corporation, Shelter Afrique, and the TD, many other partners in and outside the continent. We believe only by drawing on these partnerships would we be able to deliver on a very large scale and large-scale cross-border solutions. Equally, our partnership with the African Union, it's hard to call that a partnership. That's the mother institution. So it's perhaps not a partnership. It's about being in the house in which we were born, staying where we are, staying where we belong. So that partnership, in the manner in which you described it, my sister Salima Maliki, Deputy Chair, that partnership, to use your same Arab words, Governor, we would describe it in the same Samna ala Asa. You stay in the same home, that's honey. That's honey mixed with butter. When they mix, there's no way to separate. You either take it whole or you reject it whole. So we're going to stay in our home in Addis Ababa, but we'll stay there to talk trade finance, to talk development finance. We will leave the politics to you and take the cue from you. And through these partnerships, we'll continue to provide practical financial and institutional support to accelerate African trade. We also remain grateful for the strong support we've received from certain development partners. The Islamic Trade Finance Corporation, China Development Bank, China Exim Bank, the Russian Export Center. Their support and trust have been instrumental in expanding Afreximbank's capacity to deliver impactful trade-enabling projects across Africa. The Standard Chartered Bank has been a strong supporter in that initiative. As we move forward, Afreximbank will continue to build, strengthen, and expand these partnerships, because we know that Africa's success will be defined not by isolated standalone efforts, but by a shared vision, sharing the resources and sharing our commitments to our continent's development. The details of these 6 or 7 areas of emphasis that I have just outlined. Mr. Chairman, I'll be over very soon. I've finished with the vision, with the agenda for the way forward, so I'll be over in a few minutes. But the details of to promote these agenda items will be outlined in the 7th strategic plan that Afreximbank would release in 2026. There are a few challenges in achieving this, distinguished shareholders, and we do recognize them. Most would be due to the financial, economic, and political environment as they develop. As we confront them week on week, month on month, decade on decade. Like most financial institutions, Afreximbank has developed mechanisms to respond and adjust to these changes. In truth, your bank has developed its own special mechanisms for recurrent challenges. That is why it has gained a reputation across the continent to respond very quickly. We face it's quite unique. It is new. It is not driven, nor is it justified by economic circumstances, political, environmental, social circumstances. That challenge is not of a general nature. Controlled by you. There is a worry. The attacks have become increasingly hostile. What is quite ironic is that these attacks are not because we fail or we seem to be another African failure. It is because we are successful. The more relevant we become, the more disruptive we are considered to be, we are seen to be in certain quarters. Today, we are misguidedly accused of playing in fields that are supposedly the preserve of others. A phenomenon that has mischievously been called mission drift or mission creep. Sometimes we hear it even from African quarters. Some observers argue that Afreximbank should confine itself strictly to trade finance. And so they overlook the deeper realities of Africa's economic landscape. If we confined ourselves to trade finance, how would we produce a massive refinery, the biggest of the type Alhaji Dangote has constructed? Alhaji Dangote indicated to me today morning that he will be coming, Professor Orama, he will be coming for an additional $5 billion to expand the refinery. We have agreed to look for the money wherever it is, in Afreximbank accounts, in your individual accounts, because we believe it has to be done. He says if he does so, he would double his production and cut prices by 50%. Nigeria and for all the countries along that West African coast, with that, we are mission creeping. This is a bit strange. It is actually a fundamental misunderstanding of our mandate. Our mandate is very badly read. It is how will African trade survive? Produce unless we transform the very structure of that trade. So we'll continue to do the Dangotes, and we'll continue to do the other massive projects, the cotton processing zones, that will change the outlook in our continent. Next, we are said to be entitled, not to be entitled to what is described as a preferred creditor status. That status you give to us in the treaties that you have signed. Unlike other multilaterals, the large multilaterals which were created several decades ago, the Afreximbank preferred creditor status is enshrined in its treaty. It is deeply enshrined in its treaty. The treaty is unequivocal that no member state could place a moratorium on Afreximbank's loans. No member state would seek to restructure Afreximbank's loans without the approval of the board of Afrexim. Nor could any member state give a preferential treatment to any other institution without extending the same treatment to Afreximbank. So that treatment is not something that we discuss, and for us, it's not a privilege, it's an instrument to enhance the work that Afreximbank does for the continent. It's more so in that the states which created Afreximbank granted that special treatment, which historically they have only done to institutions which are entirely owned by states. The Afreximbank was created with private sector contribution and encouraged to use private sector money, 65%, finance the private sector, but do development. For that reason, the states extended to Afreximbank the same treatment that they give in practice the older multilaterals. But the fact that the states give this same treatment for private sector lending suggests that they thought Afreximbank was extremely important. So that particular to do. Next, we are told that the cost of our loans is too high. And for that reason, we should not. Sometimes it isn't quite clear what the actual cost of loans are. What our critics fail to point out is the actual cost of the so-called concessionary loans they claim to provide. They provide those loans with conditionality all over the streets of our continent. Create those loans and drive economic circumstances that create civil and political disturbances. Sector interventions in the productive sectors, such as value addition and industrialization. And those loans heighten our commodity dependence. So we're just in a circle. We need to break that circle. It's important that it's also clear to you as shareholders and owners of the institutions. Let's be clear on that. These coordinated attacks are a testament to the success of your institution. We are dismantling established orthodoxy, delivering impact and providing alternative sources of short and medium-term trade and development financing to Africans. We thereby reduce dependence on growth-inhibiting aid and so-called grants. Why should Africa's development, Mr. Chairman, why should our development pose such a great threat to others? I ask the ministers of finance here present to reflect on this very deeply, or they are one of the sources, one of the channels through which these attacks are made. Mr. Chairman, thank you for the minutes you've given me. That's the agenda I have for you. But let me also take this opportunity to thank you again very much for the support you gave to us, not only as Minister of Finance in Nigeria and here, and for coming here so quick. Let's thank you for the work we have done in Nigeria. And let me also take this opportunity, Deputy Prime Minister, Governor of the Central Bank, to express our gratitude to the host state and to you yourself, Governor Hassan Abdallah, for the interest you take in the work of Afreximbank and for your direct involvement in it. Ambassador Selma Malika, take the message home back to Addis, our home, that there is no intention in Afreximbank, just in case there were some fears over there, there is no intention here to change what is. We would remain in our home, working together with Addis. I have a large family here, almost impossible to enumerate. I call this mother Auntie Fanny, but I have another mother called Mama Aisha. She also sits in there. And I'm sure you Africans, you can understand. Finally, Mr. Chairman, let me say thank you to a very special individual we have in here. His name is Alhaji Yusuf. He may be somewhere in the crowd, a little tired. Maybe he isn't in here today, but he was quite visible yesterday. Alhaji Yusuf is from Ghana. He's one of those who believed in your institution from day one. Most investors in your institution were corporates. I convinced him that they are flexible resources and invested as seed capital in Afreximbank. It was a very courageous move from an individual. So as we describe founding fathers, Alhaji Yusuf, one of those founding fathers. He gave all he had to Afreximbank, and we feel very proud. Dodu told us at the very start, in the first 10 years, you must not lose 1 cent of the shareholders. Alhaji Yusuf has been lost of your investment. It's been preserved intact. Thank all the founding shareholders of Afrexim Bank. Time to listen to me, Chairman.
Dr. George ELOMBI, ladies and gentlemen, the President and Chairman of the Board of Directors of the African Export-Import Bank. Another round of applause, please. President, we can feel your conviction, your vision is clear, and your call for action is heard. We stand by you as you continue writing Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to ask you to remain standing so that we can officially close this afternoon's program with the anthem of the African Export-Import.
From within the shores of the mother shores of the fatherland.